Picture this. You've got a massive transport truck, completely loaded up with vital manufacturing components, trying to make its way to a port. But instead of cruising down a highway, that truck sits idle at a state border for weeks. It's just waiting on fragmented, bureaucratic clearances, while the factories desperately needing those parts are literally bleeding money. For decades, this wasn't just some hypothetical worst-case scenario, it was the daily reality. This logistical friction acts as a massive, invisible tax dragging down the entire economy. Well, today's explainer is a concept mastery session on PM Gati Shakti. It's an absolute game-changer of a master plan designed to completely rewire India's infrastructure and wipe out that invisible tax for good. Let's dive in.
To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to follow a clear roadmap today. We'll start with part 1, the invisible tax, then 2, grand unification, 3, the engine of execution, 4, the ripple effect, 5, friction points, and we'll wrap up with 6, concept mastery.
Section 1. The invisible tax. The infrastructure silo problem. Okay, so before this initiative came along, infrastructure development in India suffered from a brutal silo effect. Think about it like this. The Ministry of Roads might lay down a beautiful new highway, completely unaware that the Ministry of Railways was planning a track right through that exact same corridor. Or the telecom department comes along a month later and digs up that pristine road to lay fiber optics. They were operating in total isolation from one another. This fragmented, siloed bureaucracy drove India's logistics cost up to a staggering 13% of its GDP, meaning for every $100 generated, 13 were lost just moving things around. By shifting to a seamless multimodal integration, the government's target is to slash that logistics cost down to just 7.5%. That difference, it's not just savings, it's absolutely crucial for global competitiveness.
Now, to pull off a drop like that, you need a serious, generation-defining investment. Launched back in October 2021, this master plan is backed by a 100 lakh crore initiative spanning 5 years. But look, don't just see this as a giant budget number. Think of it as a strategic push for long-term technological and logistical independence. It takes massive existing programs like Bharat Mala, Sagarmala, Inland Waterways, and UDAN, and finally forces them into one cohesive vision.
Moving to Section 2, Decoding PM Gati Shakti, the Grand Unification.
So how do you actually fix a system where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing? You have to transform that fragmented bureaucracy into a unified digital nervous system. And the beating heart of this unification is the Network Planning Group, or NPG. This is a really important concept to grasp. The NPG isn't just some piece of software. It's the actual human institutional mechanism. It literally forces these different departments to sit at the same table, synchronize their planning, and aggressively eliminate the interministerial roadblocks that used to kill project efficiency.
And the scale we are talking about here is unprecedented. What started as a digital platform integrating just 16 ministries spread like wildfire. It has rapidly evolved into a true whole-of-government approach. Today, it brings 44 central ministries and 36 states and union territories onto a single, unified digital platform. For the first time, every major stakeholder is looking at the exact same map.
Section 3. Tech-driven implementation, the engine of execution. Getting everyone on the same page is great in theory, but how does this massive coordination actually play out on the ground? Well, the entire life cycle of a project has been fundamentally transformed into 4 steps. First, they identify the gap. In fact, they've already pinpointed 156 critical infrastructure gaps in first and last mile connectivity for sectors like coal, steel, and food distribution. Next comes the real magic, digital spatial planning. By using advanced tools from BISAG-N and incredibly precise satellite imagery from ISRO, they literally map the entire project digitally before a single shovel ever touches the dirt. This data gives them immediate cross-ministry coordination, which ultimately means vastly faster execution. If you want to understand the sheer speed we're talking about, check out this before and after contrast. Say the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas needs to plan a new pipeline. They have to do what's called a detailed route survey. In the past, doing this manually meant 6 to 9 months of physical surveying, crossing terrain, and drowning in bureaucratic paperwork. But today, using the new electronic survey framework powered by the spatial data, that exact same report is generated in a single day. 1 day. That is what happens when you completely remove logistical friction.
Part 4. The ripple effect, multidimensional impact.
When you suddenly unlock the ability to digitally map an entire country's infrastructure, the benefits spill way beyond just roads and ports. The interconnectedness is honestly fascinating.
Economically, the Ministry of Railways used this system to efficiently plan over 27,000 kilometers of new lines. But socially, they used the exact same spatial mapping tool to strategically place healthcare facilities and map over 10 lakh Anganwadi early childhood care centers. On the tech side, the Gati Shakti Sanjar portal was used to rapidly roll out 5G nationwide back in October 2022. And environmentally, it mapped the optimal path for a massive 13-gigawatt green energy corridor stretching from Ladakh down to Haryana. It's one unified digital map driving progress across every major sector at the same time.
And look, this isn't just a top-down central government thing. Localized governance is getting significantly smarter too. Take Goa. They use the platform to design a highly specific disaster management plan for the flood-prone Amona River. Over in Uttar Pradesh, the Punch portal uses it to figure out exactly where new schools should be built in underserved areas. In Gujarat, planners working on a 300-kilometer coastal corridor saw their required clearance permissions instantly drop from 28 down to just 13. Even the Ministry of Tribal Affairs is tapping into this via the PM Janman portal to identify highly specific infrastructure gaps for particularly vulnerable tribal groups. It's all about saving time and delivering highly precise, targeted governance.
Section 5. Friction points. Critical bottlenecks.
Of course, no massive systemic overhaul like this happens without hitting some real-world speed bumps, right? To truly master this topic, we have to look at the hidden challenges. First off, there is a stark disparity in state-level technical capacity. States that have limited resources struggle to actually utilize these advanced GIS spatial planning tools. Second, this whole machine runs on absolute data accuracy. Any discrepancies or integration delays across those 44 ministries can instantly stall a project. Third, coordinating the immense funding for these mega projects often leads to complex budgetary constraints. And finally, you have to consider the sheer pace of this development. It brings very real risks regarding environmental degradation and the displacement of local communities. Managing these exact friction points is the biggest immediate hurdle.
Section 6, Concept Mastery, Recap and Future Outlook.
All right, we've covered the structural problems, the crazy tech solutions, the broad impacts, and the bottlenecks. Let's lock this in with a rapid 30-second recap to cement these anchors in your memory. 1. The scale. It's a 100 lakh crore initiative. 2. The target. Slashing logistics costs from 13% down to 7.5%. 3. The tech. Digital spatial planning driven by ISRO and BSAGN. 4. The mechanism. The Network Planning Group, or NPG, breaking down the old bureaucratic silos. And 5. The scope. It maps multifaceted assets, everything from economic corridors right down to social institutions.
So here's the big takeaway. We are literally watching the construction of a digital foundation for physical development. If a single digital master plan can actually unify 44 separate ministries, sync up 36 states, and map millions of economic and social assets in real time, how is this interconnected framework going to reshape India's position on the global stage? By drastically lowering the cost and the sheer friction of doing business, it's laying the groundwork to potentially make India the business capital of the world. It's an absolutely massive transformation, and without a doubt, a space to watch very, very closely.